For decades, business growth has been pretty simple, right? It's followed this straight line. You take resources, you make something, and then you waste it. But here's the thing. That line is hitting a dead end. So today, we're going to dive into a totally new model, one that bends that line into a circle. And this isn't just about being green. For businesses in India, the circular economy has become an absolute strategic necessity for growth. So let's really get into what that looks like in practice. This quote from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Wow. It really just perfectly sets the stage. I mean, just imagine a system where waste isn't even a thing because you've designed it out from the very beginning. A world where every single material holds its value forever. And, get this, where business actually helps regenerate the natural world. I mean, that's the massive ambition we're talking about here. And this slide just lays it all out plain and simple. On one side, you've got that old, tired, linear model. It's a one-way street, right? From resources straight to the landfill. But on the other side, that's the new mandate, a circular, regenerative system. Value isn't lost. It's just cycled back into the economy, over and over again. The difference is just night and day. Okay, so you're probably asking, why the big rush? What's really driving this urgency? Well, let's break down exactly why that old linear model isn't just outdated. It's becoming a real threat to your bottom line and your ability to compete. Get a load of this number, 45%. Let that sink in for a second. And we're not talking about the energy used to run your factories here. Nope. This is the chunk of global emissions that comes directly from producing the stuff we sell, the materials, the products themselves. So what does that mean? It means if you're serious about decarbonization, you can't just stop at net zero energy. You have to go deeper and tackle the very design of your products. The goal is shifting from just less bad to actually being nature positive. And it's not just about emissions. There's the cold, hard reality of business risk. Think about it. The old linear model makes your entire business incredibly vulnerable to supply chain shocks. Relying on freshly mined or created materials, well, it's a recipe for disaster with all the price swings and geopolitical chaos out there. A circular model, on the other hand, it's like a strategic insurance policy. By using recycled materials or bio-based stuff, you're building resilience right into the heart of your business. So, okay, if the market risks alone aren't enough to get you moving, well, the government is stepping in. The regulatory landscape in India is making this whole thing mandatory. We're way past circularity being a nice-to-have for your annual report. It is now a non-negotiable reality. Let's dig into the details. All right, let's look at what's actually on the books. First up, you have the Extended Producer Responsibility Framework, or EPR. This is a huge one. It basically means your company is now on the hook for your products after they've been sold. Think about that. You're now financially and operationally responsible, which means you have to build whole new systems to get those products back. Then you've got things like the plastic waste rules, which straight up demand that you redesign your products and packaging. The key thing to understand here is that this isn't just another line item on your compliance budget. It's a fundamental change to how you operate. And the good news? For smaller businesses, there's actually support available, like the SPCIE financing scheme, to help make this transition happen. Okay, so we've covered the why pretty thoroughly, right? Now let's get into the how. The real engine of the circular economy can be boiled down to a really simple framework. You've got two different cycles, but they both work together in one system. So on the one hand, you have what's called the technical cycle. This is for all your manufactured products, things made of metals, plastics, that kind of stuff. The whole game here is to keep these products and their materials in use for as long as possible. We're talking repair, remanufacturing, reuse, anything to keep that value cycling. Then on the other hand, you have the biological cycle. This is for all the stuff we consume: food, cotton, wood. Here, the goal is totally different. It's all about getting those materials safely back into nature through things like composting or using bio-based materials that actually help regenerate our ecosystems. Now, getting your head around these two cycles is absolutely critical. Why? Because that's the key to unlocking completely new ways to make money. And that brings us to the playbook. 5 core business models that aren't just about ticking a compliance box. They're about building real long-term value and seriously boosting your brand. So the big question on every executive's mind has to be, okay, what are these models? How do we go from just doing what we're told to actually using this to build a real competitive edge? Well, let's jump into the first two. Model number 1 is all about what you put into your products. It's called circular supply. The goal here is simple but ambitious. Completely get rid of finite resources. That means you have to rethink your entire supply chain. You're now looking for materials that are renewable, 100% recyclable, or biodegradable.
And the huge payoff? You basically free your business from the crazy ups and downs of the commodity markets.
Okay, this next model is a total game changer. It's called the product service system. Instead of selling a thing, you sell the service that thing provides. So stop selling air conditioners. Start selling cooling as a service. See the shift? You keep ownership of the product, which means you suddenly have a massive incentive to make it super durable and easy to repair. It completely transforms your business from a one-time sale into a long-term relationship with recurring, predictable revenue. It's powerful stuff. And the playbook doesn't end there. We've also got resource recovery. This is where you literally turn your waste into a new source of income by capturing and processing those materials. Then there's product life extension. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You create value by designing for durability, offering repairs, remanufacturing, and in the process, you build incredible customer loyalty. And finally, you have sharing models. Think about platforms that let people share assets. This just maximizes the use of every single product, turning what used to be idle time directly into profit. All right, we've got the drivers, we've got the models. It's a lot to take in. So how do you actually sit down and start planning this massive shift for your own company? Well, there's a pretty straightforward strategic tool that can really help light up the path forward. This is called a force field analysis, and it's a great way to see what's really going on. On one side, you have all the forces pushing you towards change. Things like mandatory EPR compliance and the huge hit your brand could take if you don't adopt. Those are massive. On the other side, you've got the things holding you back. The initial cost, the technical challenges, maybe even old habits in your supply chain. And yeah, those are real hurdles. But when you lay it all out like this, you can see that the forces for change are just stronger. They're too big to ignore. And that really brings us to the key takeaway here. The balance has tipped. The tipping point has been reached. The forces driving this change forward, led by government policy and what your customers expect, are now way more powerful than the things holding you back. So change isn't a question of if anymore. It's a question of when, and more importantly, how. So that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. As you go back and look at your own company, your operations, your supply chain, how you make money, you have to ask yourself one simple but really challenging question. Is your business built for the economy of yesterday, or is it engineered for the economy of tomorrow?